kilometers on the wet ground. There are a huge network of tunnels underneath. It looks like a spider web. I will repeat it in Hebrew. אמא אומרת שהיא נלקחה על הגב של אופנוע, שגבר אחד ישב לפניה ומאחוריה, הרגליים בצד אחד של האופנוע והראש בצד השני. היא אומרת שהם נסעו דרך השדות החרושים, ובזמן שהם נסעו דרך השדות החרושים הכו את האנשים מהשב"כ במקלות. הורידו את השעון, they took off the watch and the jewelry as she was driving.
היו שם שבועיים שלמים, אפילו יותר 17 יום.
רגע, לא, אם את תספר את הסיפור, אין שאלות. אוקיי, תמשיכי.
כשהגענו לשם, קודם כל אמרו לנו שהם אנשים מאמינים בקוראן, והם לא יעשו לנו רע, תנו לנו את אותם התנאים שיש להם בתוך המעבוד.
When my mom...
למה את צריכה כמו כל פעם שלחתי לנו?
אנחנו לא שומעים. כן, אנחנו שומעים אתכם, היא מנסה לדבר, וזה ממש קשה, אנחנו mנסים להתקדם.
di queste braccia, poi fai gli stati sul piano d'ascolto e andando al piano di sopra, va bene? Tu ce devi andare, non che figli.
והגענו לאולם גדול שהתרכזנו איזה 25 איש. אחרי איזה שעתיים שלוש הם הפרידו מהקיבוץ שלי מקיבוץ מירוס 5, ובתוכם 5 שמו בצד.
Now we're listening in to that presser by the hostage released by Hamas. We have been getting you those updates on the hostage situation very closely, monitoring those developments. Now, as per the developments as they've panned out, remember, the hostage crisis, the situation on that front, remains one of the key issues that have dominated headlines ever since the Israel-Hamas war broke out. Now, the newly released hostage, speaking to the media at this point, we are awaiting further details on what exactly is the issue, is the statement that she's issuing at this point. But this hostage who has been released, remember Hamas released 2 elderly Israeli women hostages on health grounds. This was reportedly in response to Egyptian Qatari mediation efforts. And as a result of those efforts, these elderly Israeli women hostages who have been released, we are listening in to what that hostage has been narrating to the media personnel, that press conference by the hostage who has been released by Hamas. And we are listening in to what she's sharing with the media there.
כל יום שעה וחצי דליפה אותו, דיברו אותו עכשיו במצב טוב
Forse questi bimbi sono nipoti.
אחרי 4-5 ימים לא הייתה הטבה, החליפו אותה בלוטיקה, ואז העסק התחיל להסתדר אצלי. אתה יכול לעזור לי ברמב"ם?
כמה אנשים הייתם שם? לקחת את הרמקול גם? של נעמיתי.
אנחנו היינו 5, ולכל אחד היה מישהו ששמע עליו. היחס אלינו היה טוב.
For those of you just joining us, this is a presser that's been organized and is underway by that hostage released by Hamas. Remember, 2 Israeli hostages who had been abducted by Hamas have been released for quote-unquote humanitarian reasons. They have also been reunited with their families, and these hostages were abducted by Hamas following the October 7 attack. These 2 hostages were released from Gaza into Egypt. This was late on Monday. And now is when we are listening into that presser being, that presser which is underway by Yocheved Lifshitz, who was released from Gaza into Egypt late on Monday. And these two Israeli hostages who were released were then transferred to a hospital in Tel Aviv. This was via a military helicopter. Let's take a listen.
My mom is talking about coming there. When they arrived into a large hall in which about 25 hostages were gathered. And after 2 or 3 hours, those hostages, 5 of them, she among them, were taken into a separate room. My mom is saying that they were very friendly towards them and that they took care of them, that they were given the medicine. That they were given medicine and they were treated. One of the men with them had badly injured from a motorbike accident on the way, and the paramedic was looking after his wounds. He was given
I have 2 microphones.
medicine and antibiotics. That the people were friendly, that they kept the place very clean. They were very concerned about them.
הבאנו מיקרופון. יופי. תודה, יושבת עכשיו, תחזיקי את זה. בטח כולם ישמעו.
תודה רבה.
זה לפה. שנייה, בוא נשים את זה פה שישמעו. כולם עכשיו, בבקשה צעד אחורה כולם. כולם, חוץ משרון, אני בבקשה, כולם, בבקשה להתרחק. בואו ניתן ספייס, כולם ספייס, לצאת אחורה.
הדברים האחרונים שהיא מדברת עליהם זה ש...
כולם, בבקשה, לצאת אחורה, הבאנו מיקרופון, נעשה את זה מסודר.
For those of you just joining us, we were listening in to that presser by Yocheved Lifshitz. We have been telling you about these hostages, 2 Israeli hostages who were abducted by Hamas and then had been released for humanitarian reasons. And one of them, Yocheved Lifshitz, talking about what she went through and now that she has been reunited with her family members. Remember, Nurit Cooper and Yocheved Lifshitz, these 2 Israeli hostages were released from Gaza into Egypt. This was late on Monday. They were abducted by Hamas following the October 7 attack, and they have now been released for humanitarian reasons and reunited with their families. What we were just listening into was Yocheved Lifshitz addressing the media, talking about what all she went through. A report suggesting that she talked about how she was kicked by sticks until they reached the tunnel. And over there, they walked for a few kilometers, and that their watch and jewelry was taken off, and going about giving out further details of what all transpired. Lifshitz's family has, of course, been reunited with her, and these 2 Israeli hostages, remember, were abducted by Hamas and have now been released for humanitarian reasons. And one of them, Yocheved Lifshitz, who was among those released, has been talking about her ordeal and speaking to the media in that presser. These 2 women were freed after that video by Hamas's Qassam brigades showed them being handed over to members of the International Red Cross.
Muslims and they're not going to hurt them, and that they ate the same food that the Hamas was eating. My mom feels that it's quite enough at the moment.
תודה רבה. אפשר להישאר תודה רבה.
Sharon, can I ask you how it feels to have your mum back?
It's wonderful. My mom is very much hoping that all the people that were with her will come back, and the story is not over till everybody come back and we can start building again something. Oh, yeah.
המסר האחרון, חוסר הידיעה בצה"ל ושב"כ מאוד פגע בנו, ואנחנו היינו השעיר לעזאזל של השלטון. הם הזהירו אותנו 3 שבועות לפני שעשו לנו בית ספר, מה זה נקרא, המונים מגיעים לכביש ושרפו לנו שדות.
Yocheved Lifshitz, who was released by Hamas following her abduction after the October 7 attack, speaking to the media, has been reunited with her family. She was released from Gaza into Egypt late on Monday. And as we continue to track those developments, we also have our correspondent Jody Cohen with us on the broadcast. Jody, first of all, if you can just break down for us what all Yocheved Lifshitz has just narrated to the media, elaborating on her ordeal and what she went through.
Yes, so Yocheved Lifshitz was released last night. She's been held hostage by Hamas in Gaza. We've just seen there this press conference taking place, and she stated that, you know, she was hit by sticks until they reached a tunnel in Gaza, and there they were made to walk for a few kilometers on the wet ground. And she described seeing a huge network of tunnels underground in Gaza. Then she said when they arrived into a large hole. There were 25 hostages gathered. She was taken into a separate room, she said. She said that they were, Hamas gave them food and medicines and took care of them. Now, I think it's a very important point to remember that her husband is still being held by Hamas in Gaza. So we have to also be aware that whatever is said, she will be very much aware of the welfare, worrying about her husband, who is still being held in Gaza. She said that the people were concerned. She was talking about sharing food with the other hostages there. They ate the same food that Hamas was eating. And we also have heard from Arnon Lifshitz, the son of this 85-year-old Yocheved, who has been freed from Hamas captivity. Now, he said that she was held in a room with some 60 other hostages, and they believe that that is cause for some optimism. She, Yocheved, and her husband were separated. He was put into another place, and the family had expressed hope that he would also be able to return as soon as possible. We remember that obviously we're hearing that something like 230 people are being held in Gaza, mostly Israeli civilians, but also we're hearing people, heads of countries around the world.
Right, Jody, we just heard her talk about how she was kicked by sticks, and how this was until they reached this tunnel there, and they took off her watch and her jewelry. If you can just share more details on that front.
Yes, so she described seeing a large network of tunnels underground in Gaza, and of course, you know, this is one of the concerns of the Israeli army, is that when they talk about the goal of dismantling Hamas and their terror infrastructure, they're talking about not only the rocket launchers and the leadership, they're also talking about this tunnel network, because there's a concern that potential further infiltrations could happen and further hostages in the south could be taken from those communities bordering Gaza back into Gaza. And so these communities around those communities on the border with Gaza have actually been evacuated. And the same thing has taken place in the north of the country in order to protect the civilians there from infiltration. We don't know yet when this ground operation will happen. I spoke to the IDF international spokesperson, Richard Hess, yesterday afternoon, and he talked about, they haven't stated officially the goal But we have heard from the political leadership that the goals will be to dismantle Hamas and to make sure that the deterrence is restored and that Hamas doesn't have the capability of taking hostages like this again.
Right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Jody, thanks very much for joining us with those details, and we will of course keep a close eye on the latest coming in on that front. We have been tracking the hostage situation and the crisis very closely, of course. As of now, we are taking a very short break, but that remains our continuing focus as we continue to get to the latest coming in from the Israel-Hamas war. Stay with us.